So we're recording this, what, just a few days, like y'all just played your spring game, right?
Mhm. We
Was it
did, yes, sir.
was it Alpharetta?
hmm Yeah, we went to Alpharetta, played them this past Friday. So that was something that me and Jason had talked about doing probably since I was at Southside, really. And then when I came here, it probably ended up working out a little bit better. We got that Viger game week one, old week one, and so we really kind of need to see like what the days travel would look like for us. So when we get that opportunity, in the regular season to go to Viger, our kids it'll be similar to the Alpharetta trip.
Okay. How like I mean, being a spring game and especially you being new to this job. What I know y'all played to a 7-7 tie. You probably did like the play a half type thing. I don't know, but what did you kind of learn about your new roster?
So we went, three quarters varsity quarters, and then our fourth quarter was our our young guys, some JV guys, and some of our young guys. The biggest thing that I took away from it, like we play hard. I know some people probably look at it and they're like, I mean, why would you play a spring game? I mean, we got 8 days of like actual install stuff, really probably 7 days of like actual install. We don't have our whole staff in here. We got our coordinators in, and we retained a lot of good ball coaches, but we don't have our whole staff. Trying to install, like put like a good install together against a quality opponent from Georgia. Um, I mean, I know a lot of people probably think it's a crazy thing to do, but for us, anytime you're gonna give me 10 days, you're gonna give me 5 days. Like I'm gonna take 10 in the spring as opposed to the early five in the fall. Um, we I say that. I mean, our baseball team was probably 6 outs away from being the area champs and being in the playoffs. And so that might have changed my mind had we not had our baseball guys.
Right.
But we do so many things that I think we just need the reps at offensively and defensively. There's so much nuance into the scheme that I didn't want the first day of summer to really be the first time we got live reps at doing it. I mean, we're looking at June 6th. I mean, we start June 4th, and we're looking at going to play at UAB in the 7-on-7 June 6th. So it's hard to replicate those reps, especially at wide receiver in the throw game and quarterbacks getting the timing down. It was just it was a good opportunity for us, and I got to see how hard they play. Executionally, we got some stuff to clean up. Obviously, I mean that's to be expected. You got 9 days to get ready for a spring game, so you expect some scheme stuff to have to get cleaned up. But other than that, I mean, I enjoyed watching us compete. I know that.
Yeah. I want to go back for a minute. I've talked to you when you were at Southside, but haven't got to really talk to you as much since you got the T County job. How did that job kind of come about for you, and what was attractive about it to you?
Well, I'll be honest with you. I didn't. I mean, I'd seen where Coach Weingarten had left. I didn't really put much stock into that. Like I didn't look into it necessarily. And then I got a text. I don't think he cares. I mean, he's really the reason I'm here. I got a text from Sam Adams, and
Yeah.
Sam texted me and was like, "Hey, you probably gonna get a call later tonight." And we were scheduled to do like an offensive roundtable at Oxford. I think the week after that, and he's like, "You probably be getting a phone call tonight." And I was like, "I got you from who?" And he told me it was Coach Williams, the principal here. So he called, asked if I was interested. I told him I'd love to talk to him about it. And ended up talking to him and the athletic director, Mr. Ingram, for probably like 4 hours later in that week. It was pretty informal. I just came over here and sat down. We talked and about what it would look like possibly, and then there's like we're gonna end up calling you back if we're gonna go through our interviews, and we'll end up calling a couple guys back and go through it that way, some formal stuff. And I was like, awesome, yes sir. And to be honest with you, I kind of heard some names of the people that were you know involved in the interview, and I told my wife when I got home, I was like, I think I just wasted 4 hours of talking about what we would do. Like I don't have a chance to get that job. Um, and I actually talked to Coach Niblett about it for a little bit, and he was like, I think I think you got a pretty decent shot. I was like, I don't know. Talked to him, talked to Coach Urban, a couple of guys that I kind of lean on. Talked to Coach
Yeah.
Curvin, over in Alpharetta, and call me back, go to the interview. I just talked about what we do, what I believe in, how we do it, and still kind of the same feeling. I was like, look, there's some big time names out there like that are interested in this job. Like I probably don't have much of a shot at getting this thing. And to be honest with you, like I love being at Southside. I didn't,
Yeah.
I wasn't necessarily looking really to leave, but when this opportunity happened, I've always wanted to be a 7A head football coach. I guess when I started, I wanted to be a 6A coach, and then, eventually we, moved to 7 classifications and wanted a chance to do that, and compete in this region is something pretty special. Having the chance to be at Hoover as an assistant and knowing how much fun it was week in and week out, that like it's hard to beat. They called me back, and it was a Monday. Mr. Williams called me back and asked me if I wanted to be a Wildcat. So the bad part is like my principal she was sick that day, so I was like, I want to tell you, yeah. I was like, I just want to tell her first. I was like, can I call you tomorrow? I was like, I want to say yes. Is there anything I can do? He's like, yeah. You can go apply for the job. And so, that was one of those situations where like it just kind of happened pretty quick. And then, then the hard part happens. You got to tell your kids, that you're leaving, you're going to take another opportunity, and you tell them all the things that everybody tells them, that feels just completely hollow and disingenuous. Because you're leaving them to go do something that you feel like is better for you and your family. And knowing at the same time like you wouldn't even be close to having these opportunities had it not been for them and like their sacrifice and what they were willing to do, and the level of investment they had. So you tell guys all the time like, hey, we want to serve other people, and then all of a sudden like you make a decision like that feels incredibly selfish especially when you're telling your kids. And they were man, they were great. I feel like I was borderline depressed the first week I was here, because they were texting me. I was away, I'm away from home. The transition is the hardest part,
Oh, yeah.
I'm meeting our guys here and learning who they are and how they respond to things, and having some great conversations with them, trying to build a relationship with these guys here. And, all the while, my guys that are still back in Southside are texting me like, hey coach, how's the first week going? Everything good, and that means, a ton to me. And then, the more I'm here, the more I get a chance to build relationships with these guys. And so it's been like anywhere, everybody, if you can, don't matter who they are, if you can add value to them and help them get where they want to get and help them be successful. I think you have enough genuine conversations with people, they kind of realize like what your heart is and what you're trying to do and what you want to accomplish.
Yeah. No, that's well said. And you mentioned, kind of, as a coach, I want to get to that level of being a 6A coach, and then, 7A comes about a decade ago now, and now it's like, okay, now I'd love to get to that level. Let's see, Tuscaloosa County, Region 3, open with Thompson in Region 3, at Prattville, which will be at Wetumpka because of Prattville's stadium stuff. Oak Mountain, Hillcrest, Tuscaloosa, Hoover, Vestavia, Hewitt, Trustful. Welcome to the region, Coach.
Yeah, ain't no doubt. That's the fun part, no question. You look at it, and I remember our athletic director, Mr. Ingham, he's like, "Hey, who we got for homecoming, right?" And I was like, "No, sir, I do not." And he's like, "We got Hoover." And I was like, "Okay, there you go."
Wow. Wow.
So
Man.
it'll be, you got to play somebody. You got to play somebody, and there's really not anybody on that. There's really nobody on the schedule where you're like, oh yeah, that's definitely who we need to play. You look at. We open up with Central Tuscaloosa, and then
Yeah.
then we go to Viger. If you look at Viger's roster, I think they got the number one offensive lineman in the nation. Micah DeBose is the number one offensive lineman ever that's coming out. They got 2 corners that are stud. They got another defensive end. It's a really good player. So there's no easy ones. There ain't no doubt about that. So that's what makes it fun, though. I mean, you get a chance to compete against the best, uh, which is, and we tell our guys all the time, like, you got to find a way to be your best. You better be your best on Friday nights here. There ain't no question
Yeah.
about that.
Yeah, we've asked coaches over the years, in 7A Region 3, especially when, a particular job comes available, kind of like you in T County. You're a new coach now. We kind of ask coaches to, hey, have you watched the region from afar? How would you describe the region? I'm curious that answer for you, but also like coming on the heels of a reclassification where Chelsea drops down, Spain Park drops down, both out of Region 3, but you add Prattville and Hillcrest Tuscaloosa. And Hillcrest Tuscaloosa's been absolutely dominant in 6A the last few years. How would you kind of sum up this region?
I mean, I think I think Max Preps came out with like a it was like a graphic. I don't know, it might have been last year. It's like one of the top 10 regions in the nation. I mean, because of who's in it, the caliber of teams are in it, the caliber of coaches that are in it. And like you said, you lose Spain Park and Chelsea, but you add, two quality teams that I mean, tradition is, incredible. Also, when you talk about Prattville and Hillcrest, um, the interesting part is that Hillcrest and County High hadn't played each other in maybe 4 years, so they hadn't played each other in a while, and we're 10 minutes away from each other, and um, so now we're in the same region together, which is an interesting dynamic for sure. It's the I think the biggest thing is there are no off weeks. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who you're playing. It doesn't matter what the record is. Just from my experience in the past as an assistant in the region, you have to be prepared to play. Anybody, any night can beat you on Friday, and that's I think when you look at the history of County High, I think we hadn't made the playoffs since 2014, which is a long drought for us. I mean, when you look the years prior to that, I mean, they were, a perennial playoff team, competing for state championships, won it in, I think, 97. I mean, you look at the players that's come out of here. I mean, it's, I think talent's here. I think the talent's here. I think we get everything else, every other aspect that kind of line up with talent, and then you got to go out and compete, and you got to be resilient, and you got to find a way to overcome some adversity. I mean, because people are going to make plays, especially with who we play. And that's stuff like that's going to happen. And that's part of the reason why we wanted to go schedule Alpharetta. They've got an incredible defensive line. We get a chance to compete against, they're in a 6A in Georgia, which is the highest classification in Georgia, and so you compete against a guy like, for me, who I respect a ton, and Jason, and he's one of my best friends. And, we coached with him for a year over there at Alpharetta before I went to Southside, and then we were together at Hoover, and so, the way he runs his program is similar to how we run ours, and it's going to be similar to how teams in this region are going to run it. So it was a fun test for us, especially, only having those 8 or 9 days to kind of get a true install in and let guys kind of figure out, how we are as coaches and what we're trying to do schematically. So, I mean, the region's tough, but, that's, I told the parents in the parent meeting, there's a couple games, everybody's like, well, I just don't know about that one. And I was like, I mean, as far as I know, when I took the job, they're going to let us flip the coin and everything. I don't even think we've lost that yet, so might as well go play it. We're not down 2 scores in any game yet. I mean, we're going to get to play all 4 quarters. They're going to let us put our starters out there, and they're going to let us try to score. So I don't really buy into the, well, you just go out there and do the best you can. Like, that's a built-in excuse that our kids don't need. They don't need a built-in excuse. I mean, the expectation is to win them, and if you don't, like, then I'll take the blame for it. It's not on them, so nobody needs an excuse. It ain't like we're going to throw them under the bus and say it's the kid's fault, I mean, so don't give them an excuse before the season starts. Like, we ain't lost the game yet, and so until somebody beats us, we won't, and that's kind of the mentality that we have as a staff, and that, I think our kids will have before we get into August.
I love that. That fires me up. I wanted to. I'm gonna ask you one more region question. Um, you tell me. I've never. I don't think I've covered a game at Tuscaloosa County. Certainly seen y'all
Mhm.
in the region, but it's been up here at a Hoover, at a Hewitt Trustful. Does it? Do you think it will help at all? Like just being year one and a region schedule like that we all know is tough. I'm looking at the schedule over here, but
Mhm.
you get
We got
you
the right
get
ones at home.
that's what I was going to ask. You've got Thompson, Hoover,
Yeah.
and Hewitt Trustful all at home. Like, do you care? Does that matter? Does it help? What do you think?
I mean, it's hard to say. We came over here in 2019. We played over here.
Yeah.
Now the stadium, like what they've done renovation wise, I mean, to the stadium, to the facility, it's a lot different. We had a tremendous crowd at Alpharetta. I mean, you're talking 3.5 hours away. It was late, and we brought a ton of people, with us to that game. So I can only imagine, what a home game is going to feel like here. Um, I gotta imagine it would help some. There's no doubt about it. I mean, playing at home, playing in front of your fans. I feel like especially the first region game should be pretty exciting. I mean, you look at you open up with Thompson. It's your place. I mean, you're talking about a perennial top 50 team in the nation. Top 25 team in the nation. So why would you not be excited about playing that game? I got a ton of respect for Coach Freeman. I actually talked to him about some other opportunities back before this job ever even happened. Um, just because I got a lot of respect for him for how they built their program, how he's done things, and to be honest with you, like we're able to kind of look at the trajectory that they've had. I mean, if you look at what their record was the year before he got there, their first year, and then what he built that program into, you know, um, I think there's a lot to be said about how he did it, um, and what he's not only did he get there, then he's found a way to sustain it, which is I think probably harder than to climb to get to where you need to be, and I got to imagine that being able to play in front of our home crowd will be beneficial. Now, I think some of that also depends on maybe how the first couple games go. Like, what does it look like? Are we competitive in the fourth quarter? Can we find ways to pull out wins? I think some of that, I think just naturally based off of just how we are, will determine, the
Yeah.
excitement level week in and week out.
Yeah. And I should mention, I did say Thompson, Hoover, and Hewitt Trustful, but also Hillcrest, Tuscaloosa there on October 4th. So that is, that'll be, that's big for the gate, I imagine.
No doubt. Yeah, no doubt.
What's it been like so far? Just adjusting to a new place, a new job, that kind of thing.
I mean, it's like everywhere. Like kids are just excited about having a chance to have conversations. I think just in my experiences, like guys want real relationships, and sometimes that's not always. And I think sometimes as coaches, like we look at that like, hey, let us talk and you just listen. Um, but really, we say all the time, like offensively, like inside the program, like we're gonna pick the color, right? And we'll give you the brush, and you tell us how you want to do it. They're the ones that put all the time and effort in, and there's some non-negotiables inside of our system for sure. But if they're willing to do all these things that we ask them to do, then we can let them have some opinions on some of the things they would like to see us do. And you don't know any of that stuff unless you have conversations, And so the first month, I told them day one, I walked in, we're in the weight room, and I knew, the guys that have already been running the weight room that like they were doing a great job. Like, and I'd already talked to, Coach Dill and Coach Carden about like, I don't really want to change this for change sake. Like what we were doing and the way I prefer to do it was very similar already. And so if the kids were comfortable doing it that way and there wasn't going to be any change really, why change it up just to say, hey, we changed it? That didn't make any sense to me. And so, we kind of stayed the same. I said my first day, like I walked in, and they were like, "Hey, do you want to bring everybody down there?" And like baseball's in the middle of a playoff run, so I don't want to. We got like 35 guys that are football, baseball guys. So I didn't want to, affect, Nick and what they had going on by bringing them down here and like trying to mess their schedule up. And so I said, look, like I know y'all didn't pick me. Y'all did not pick me. I chose you. Like I chose each one of them. So it's my job to earn your respect by how we do the job. And people get respect like for about 15 minutes based off what your title is. And then people just realize like, well, I don't love how he does this, or I do love how he does this, you know? And so it's my job to earn their respect initially. And by how we do what we do, like having conversations, the way we push our kids out, we try to get exposure for them. The way we practice, the way we hold them accountable. You know, I tell them all the time, like there's probably times, especially in the spring, I know for a fact guys probably did not like us that much when they left that day. But at the same time, I can not like their football that day and still genuinely care about them. And it's they're the ones that get told me, hey, this is what we want to do. This is what we want to accomplish. All right, well then we're gonna hold you accountable to that. Like, you know, that kind of allows us to kind of go back and be like, well, hold on a second now. You said you wanted this, right? So if you want this, this is how we're gonna get there. And that part's been fun. There's obviously times it's frustrating, you know, when it comes to schematically and being able to line up and being able to execute plays on the same level that we were executing them last year because guys were in it for 3 years. So then, you know, you look back and you realize like, well, look, that really wasn't on them. Like I'm scripting stuff like that we would run year 3, expecting them to already know it, and
Right.
they just don't. They ain't had enough time in the system to know it. You know what I mean? And so then, you know, we go back and watch the tape the next day and it's like, hey, look, all right, that one's on me. That day was bad. We scripted too much, tried to add too much. All right. So we're going to back off a little bit, maybe not shift emotions much, maybe, you know, put a little bit less in, stick with some of the stuff we know. But I'm still a firm believer in like, let's throw as much at them as we can throw at them early on and see what we can retain. You know, I think you kind of find out like what guys are really, really serious about it and who really loves football. And at the same time, like, you know, who are the guys you got to have a conversation with because maybe right now they love what football allows them to do and they're not real sure like how to change that. And so that's our job is to kind of help them get them on board to, you know, finding out like, hey, do you really love playing football? You know, and so that's what the spring was about. That's what this transition's been about. It's been great. You know, I've learned a lot about our guys. I think they've learned a lot about me. You know, and so it's a fun time. So I've learned a lot about our staff. You know, having a chance to go ahead and coach with them before we get into the summer has been beneficial also.
Yeah. You mentioned kind of like scripting some things and, you know, having things thrown at guys that you had for 3 years, that kind of thing. I know it's a balance between what you want to do and like the personnel that you have and their strengths and weaknesses and stuff. But Tuscaloosa County fans, what can they expect to see like offense, defense? Like what stylistically, like what are they going to walk in and see you guys trying to accomplish on the field?
You know, I think a lot of people think that we're, you know, a spread it out like super up tempo team, and we can be, you know, we can be up tempo at times. If you watched us play last week, you know, we are multiple personnel, multiple tempo, multiple personnel team offensively. We went from being in 21 to being in 12 to being in 10 and 11. I mean, we get in just a little bit of everything personnel wise, and some of it really depends on what we're getting schematically on the other side. You know, I knew kind of what, you know, me and Jason had talked about what we were going to give each other defensively. And so that kind of allowed us to, you know, game plan a certain way. We knew we wasn't going to have just a ton in, you know, in the throw game. So we didn't really get into a whole bunch of 10 because I know in the summer, I mean, we've got multiple 7-on-7s where we're going to live kind of in 10 personnel, maybe some 11 personnel. And so we didn't need to, we knew we were going to get those reps in the summer. So we wanted to be really good in 12 and 21 personnel to allow us to make sure we could get the run game going. We got 2 really good backs. You know, our offensive line, I feel like, is one of our strong points. And so we wanted to get that going kind of early. You know, we're a downhill run team. I mean, that's you know, we're a downhill physical run team. You know, like to play action off some of that stuff. I mean, you know, but at the same time, like we can spread it out and snap it every 7 to 10 seconds too if we need to. It really is based off of, you know, game planning, like what we feel like gives us an edge that week based off who we're playing. And then defensively, the way Brian does it, it's we're multiple front. We'll go from an even front to an odd front to some version of bear. I mean, we kind of do a little bit of everything defensively. In the back end, we didn't try to do too much this spring. Wanted to make sure we could see how guys could play, and so I mean, he's been at the next level. He's had a bunch of guys, had a chance to learn from some of the some of the best in the business. I think that was one of the things I was a little shocked we got him to come here, but we'll take it. We will
How
definitely
did
take
you
it.
get him
So
to come there?
to be honest with you, we had a guy that we were going to hire, right,
Yeah.
and that ended up not happening. And so, I text Coach Pruitt and I was like, "Hey, we need a good defense coordinator. Who would you recommend?" And that send me his number. He's like, "Give this guy a call. He'd be a good fit for you."
Wow.
So gave him a call. Initially, he'd be the first day. He didn't really answer the first 2 times I called. So I left him a voicemail, told him who I was, and like sent him a text message, told him who I was, because he'd probably just seen some random number from Alabama. And called me back. We had like probably an hour-long conversation the first time we talked. And we just kind of like his philosophy defensively kind of matches up with what we want our team to be. And it ended up just kind of being perfect. His wife's from Tuscaloosa, so that helped us a little bit, and so that was kind of, in our favor. Some she was wanting to kind of get back closer to home, I think. So ended up working out for us. Our kids have enjoyed it. They're getting pushed. I mean, there's no doubt about it. I mean, they're getting pushed physically, mentally. We're willing to try to add as much as we can add. It helps us offensively because we see a bunch of different fronts. It allows us to be prepared for whatever front we get thrown at. And I think the same thing. I think offensively, I think we get to see a bunch of whether it's FIB, whether it's a bunch of bunch and snuggies, whether it's tight end sets, motions, and shifts, and we kind of it allows us to be good on good and get a bunch of reps at a lot of things that we're probably going to see in this region.
Yeah. And the Brian we were referring to, Brian Niedermeyer, right?
That's correct.
I'm looking at the coaching career that dates back to 2012. I mean, he's been at Arkansas Pine Bluff, analyst at Miami, wide receivers coach at East Texas Baptist, GA at Georgia and Alabama. Tight ends and then inside linebackers coach at Tennessee. He's been at
Yes,
St. Thomas Aquinas in Florida and IMG in Florida. That is a resume.
Good. Yeah, ain't no doubt.
That's
ain't no
awesome.
Doubt. We'll take him for sure.
Yeah. I mean, subtle flex saying, you texted Coach Pruitt, just subtle flex there. Not bad.
Well, you asked how it happened. I've been like, I would have never had his number. I would have never had his number. And to be honest with you, like I got Coach Pruitt's number from one of my best friends, Robbie Coker, who's the basketball coach at Fort Payne. And so
Okay.
that's how I got his number. So.
I kind of figured the Hoover connection somewhere down the line. I just figured you had it.
I think it's probably more of a DeKalb County connection.
Okay. That
so Crossville, Rangeville, and really it ended up being Robbie and Coach Pruitt. They've been close for a long time. So ended up I asked Rob. I was like, "Hey, you think you could slide me his number so I got to find a defense coordinator?" He's like, "Yeah, he'll know one for sure." So
that's awesome.
It ended up working out.
That is awesome. So, who are some guys? I know, you're newer there, but who are some guys at Tuscaloosa County for people to kind of watch out for? Who are some guys that have been standing out on both sides of the ball for you guys?
We'll start defensively. I think one of the guys that's been, very vocal and very good and back in the secondary, his name is Javion Hurd, but everybody calls him Kel. He goes by Kel Hurd. He plays safety. He can also kind of roll down, play that star spot for us. And it's, in what we do defensively, that little star position is tough. I mean, you got to be able to fit the run, be a force player, but at the same time, be able to cover guys. And Kel's done a great job of being able to do that. And for us, the unfortunate part in the spring, as good as we felt like we played, two of our better players defensively, were out. this spring. And so one of them's a defensive line, a defensive lineman, plays defensive end. His name's Hunter Montgomery, big kid, has a very, a great motor. He's trying to get back. He was. I ain't never seen somebody recover from an ACL. Getting hurt. Week 10 last year, but he's completely clear June 1st. And so, he went out in shells. Everything was just no contact for him in the spring. So, he's excited about getting back. Another guy, defensive front wise, Blake Christian. I mean, is a dang. I mean, he's tough to deal with inside. Was a runner up, wrestler, state champ. He was runner up the state champion in wrestling. He's hard to deal with inside. He understands leverage. I mean, obviously he's a wrestler. He has heavy hands. He had a great spring. Another guy at corner. You look at him and you may think, like, we're going to take a shot on this guy. He's not super tall, but Kylan Mays, man, he plays through the hands. Plays with great effort, great technique. Has done a really good job for us in the spring. Another guy we put a lot of pressure on back there in the back end is Drew Keller. He's been around the game for a long time, understands the ball, plays really well. And at safety, you gotta be able to play. You gotta be able to buzz down and then fit the run. At the same time, you got to be able to cover, and he's done a good job of that. Offensively, we got some offensive linemen. Ivan Williams, our left tackle, had a great spring. Our center, Caleb Cole, he's making that transition from guard to center. He had a great spring. Those two guys, especially up front, were really good for us. Our two running backs, CJ Hutchins and Kamari Jackson, KJ, had incredible springs. I mean, those two guys can go. I know everybody's like, well, they're losing Kevin, to graduation, but I'm just telling you, the two guys we got coming back are special backs also. I mean, they can both do it. On the perimeter, we've had some, we're trying to figure it out on the perimeter. We got a bunch of guys that can play. Like, we probably got 6 or 7 guys that can rotate in and out and be able to do some things for us. But the biggest thing is like helping them kind of get involved in the system. We got a big right tackle who will be a junior, Jared Fox. I mean, he's another guy that really, to be honest with you, our whole offensive line played pretty well. I mean, we're going against a group at Alpharetta who's got some. I mean, Julius Holly's got every offer you can ever imagine at defensive end. I mean, and so like that being the first group that we go against, I'm not sure as a whole we may not see a group that's better than them. Now we'll probably see some that are about the same level, but I'm not sure if we'll see any that are completely better than they are. So, our quarterbacks, we got a couple quarterbacks in the spring. Braden Smith, I think, had probably the best conceptual understanding of what we were trying to do. But we got a couple guys behind him. Tate Pettis was the guy that was right there, kind of competing with him too. So those two guys, we put a lot of pressure on them. I mean, our quarterbacks. So we put a lot of pressure on our quarterbacks. There's a lot of things they had to be able to do. But I think they handled it pretty well. I texted them both kind of after the game and was bragging on them. At the same time, I was like, look, I think y'all are trying to play not to mess up as opposed to just playing the game sometimes. And so, I think that's, like I said, to be expected. I mean, they're trying to do things right and they don't want to mess up. And so sometimes I think it handcuffs them just a little bit because they're trying to be perfect. And they're not, none of them are going to be. And that's never going to happen. So, but I think those two guys, did a good job. And I think, probably Braden had the best, conceptual understanding of what we were trying to do.
Yeah. What are you looking forward to most when this thing kicks off for y'all? Hang on, I've lost my page there. On August 23rd, what are you looking forward to most about this first season at T County?
I think the hardest thing with any year one is figuring out like how to coach each guy. I mean, that's the hardest thing. Like eventually, like the longer you're in it, like, hey, you can get in this guy, but like you got to put your arm around him. Like you got to do it like where it's not out in the public. Like, everybody can't hear you getting on him. Like he just don't respond to that. And then some guys, like they need that. They need you to be able to get on and be like kind of loud with them because like that's what motivates them. so learning how our guys compete, getting to see them overcome and fight through adversity. I told them, when we were meeting, we meet on Wednesday mornings. Like the perception is that we're front runners. I mean, that's the perception. And when things are good, like, hey, if you let them hang around now, they're going to be tough. But if you can jump on them, like they'll quit. And I'm curious to see, what happens. And I hope it don't happen for a while. But like, what happens when we go down 14-0 in a game? Like, how are we going to compete after that happens? Like, are we going to fold it up? Are we going to find a way to have a little adversity, or go through adversity and be able to bounce back? That's really probably what I'm most interested to see. Like, I know we'll come out with some excitement. I know we're going to come out and play hard. Like, I don't have any doubt about how we're going to compete. They're going to learn how we compete, like how we prepare. Week in and week out, because that might be a little bit different for them. But I think the thing that I'm most excited about is trying to figure out, who are the guys that are the most vocal, and who are the guys that are the most invested, like when things aren't going well. And I mean, that's probably crazy to say. Like I'm not looking forward to things not going well. I mean, I hope we don't have to,
Right.
figure that out. But at the same time, I think for us to grow as a program, like we need to figure out like who are those guys that are going to be unwavering in how they lead the rest of this team when things, when we're down 2 scores. And I think that's probably the thing that I'm most interested to see.
Yeah. And then I want to wrap with this. This is the most important question so far. Zero doubt, most important question. Best place you've eaten, shopped, that kind of thing in Northport so far. What's the
Oh
best?
man, I'll be honest with you. I haven't ventured too far outside of these walls right here. I would say, like I got like a little, like I'm telling you, like I leave Southside on Monday mornings, and I
Yeah.
go back home on Friday afternoons, and I got like this little air mattress. I just sleep right here in this office, like.
I believe it.
So I don't go too far outside of here. I think probably the best place I've ate. We had lunch one time at the front porch, which is right down the road, and so it was really good. Shopping wise, probably Publix, probably Publix.
Publix.
I guess that's
Publix.
probably, yeah. I
You
don't
haven't
know.
hit a
I hadn't gone. I hadn't really
yeah.
gone. I really don't go anywhere to like shop yet. Eventually, like we close on our house next Friday, and so I promise my wife will have me out. We'll be going shopping somewhere. Ain't no doubt about that. So I'll probably have a better answer for you next Friday.
Okay. Hey, staff lunch, City Cafe. Do the City
I've heard,
Cafe.
yeah. Now I've heard great things about City Cafe. There was another we ate somewhere back. My first trip over here was also pretty good downtown over there by City Cafe also.
Yeah.
And so, but I guess I would say the front porch kind of like it was like it just reminded me of it was like a nice little old school diner, like
Love it.
Crossville, like that I was used to growing up.
Yeah.
Like a good like meat and three kind of place. You know what I mean? So it
Yeah.
was it was really good.
Yeah, if you like that vibe, you'll love City Cafe. Uh, it's
Oh,
been
absolutely.
my God, I haven't eaten there since I was in college in Tuscaloosa. So that's been uh oh God, it's been like 15 years, something like that. So it's been a bit, but man, that place was legit. Like, I mean, just line out the place. Now I don't know if I'd eat there like and then maybe go do like a summer workout or something like that, or be outside in that Northport heat. But do a little staff lunch or something someday.
I like it. Sounds good. I'm gonna have
Cool.
to try it out for sure.
Cool. Well, I appreciate you, Coach, and it's
Yes, sir.
awesome to like. I'm glad like every year that we watch kind of the quote unquote coaching carousel. Like who's gonna what jobs are coming available, who's going where, that kind of thing. But like all the schools we cover, it seems like, and then with the shakeups in the regions, we like kind of know almost all of the coaches within our big
Hmm.
regions that we cover really well, and guys who have had connections to that particular region or a school in that region in the past. Like you were at Hoover. so we know of you there. And then, like Drew Gilmer, who we've covered forever at Clay Chalkville, gets the Hoover head coaching
Mm-hmm.
job. So it's really cool to have you in that region where now, we'll see you. Let's see what games we'll see you at Oak Mountain versus Hoover, at Vestavia versus Hewitt Trustful. So like those are four immediate right off the bat. One of us will be at one of those games. So
Sure.
excited for the season and to see what you guys look like this fall.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Well, like I said, I appreciate you having me on here, letting us talk about the program a little bit, and I look forward to talking to you and catching up some more during the season.
Absolutely. I appreciate you, Coach.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
All right, have a good one.
You too.